Good morning. I'm getting ready to go for a run, but I wanted to take a second and respond to this statement and maybe a couple others before I do. So this person says, I don't know about anyone else, but we have our first LGBTQ plus president. This is in reference to one of the Epstein emails that is sparking speculation that maybe Donnie and Bill Clinton like to go down for a womp. You know, cop a doodle, gum a root, inhale an oyster, gobble the goop, whatever you want to call it. Lots of rumors swirling, and I know there's speculation about whether it actually is Bill Clinton referenced in those emails, but I took that speculation as an opportunity to make a video about Bill Clinton and Donald Trump's long friendship, right? And all of the really nice things they've said about each other, all the times they've played golf and hung out and been to each other's weddings, and how their animosity really only began in 2016. Actually, I think it's like May 2015, after Bill Clinton had really encouraged Donald Trump to get active in Republican politics, at least according to the Washington Post. And then Donald Trump launched his first campaign for president. I wanted to address this comment specifically because I've seen several different iterations of it across multiple platforms. And I actually had a conversation with my friend yesterday about this very issue. Is the scandal of the Epstein files not so much the diddling kids, not so much the trafficking girls? Because we know Republicans are kind of down with that. We know that actually powerful elites and politicians are kind of down with that. No matter what party they're from, there are so many scandals and incidents where political advisors, elected officials, spiritual advisors around Donald Trump have all been accused of, convicted of, pled guilty to CSA. I guess the question here is, if there was any blackmailing by Epstein, if there was any control and manipulation, what is in the Epstein files? Is the concern for Republicans and the establishment far more about it being homosexuality than about being victimizing girls? Because there's been a long string of conservative Republicans who've actually been taken down by gay sex scandals, adult men wanting to engage in consensual behavior. But because they're a bunch of homophobic bigots, that's a career-ending move, right? Think of Ted Haggard. It's always the conservative Republicans who have the most kind of vile anti-gay rhetoric online that end up engaging in the behaviors and having the relationships they campaign so hard against. And especially if you think back to the 1990s, I know for maybe a lot of my younger viewers, you might not understand how much different it was to be an out gay person in the mid to late 90s, especially in American politics. And even the early 2000s, right? I mean, it was just very different back then. Now, I'm sure the trafficking girls thing was part of it, but I just think this brings up an interesting question. How much of the suppression and desire to cover up all of the Epstein stuff really had far more to do with prominent political figures and, wealthy elites being engaged in acts like the act insinuated in that email between Jeffrey Epstein and his brother? And I think this really gets to a greater issue about the Republicans, because for me, okay, if Donald Trump slobbered all over Bill Clinton's knob, I don't really care. That's two consenting adults. And yet time and time again, we see Republicans flip out over that. Conservatives flip out over two consenting adults doing whatever adult behavior they want behind closed doors. It's the same reason Project 2025 wants to make OnlyFans illegal, wants to put anybody with an OF account in prison for 10 years. It's the same reason that Project 2025 wants to criminalize writing, selling, reading, owning romance novels. They want to control what adults, especially women, do in their own time. It is all about control and coercion. It's all about depriving consenting adults from doing whatever the fuck they want with their bodies as long as it causes no harm to other people. It's all about control and coercion and shame. Conservatives, especially MAGA, white Christian nationalists, Project 2025, they are perpetually obsessed with controlling adults' behavior. And I've mentioned this in the past, but I think it has a lot to do with the fact that when you are engaged in, immersed in an ideology that's all about hyper control, and you must constantly police yourself, your body size, your body image, who you have relationships with, what you say, you must constantly be performing to the MAGA standard, to the Christian nationalist standard. and you are constantly shrinking yourself, controlling yourself, policing yourself, it becomes much easier to want to do the same to other people, to police other people, especially if you see them engaging in a behavior that they enjoy, that is causing no harm, that you wish you could engage in, but your subculture is telling you you can't. And also, to add this other layer to it, like, to me, I think it really is totally understandable why a high control group, an oppressive would-be fascist group like Project 2025, like MAGA Christianity, why they really don't low-key have a problem with assaulting girls. That's why we saw Megyn Kelly trying to justify adult men grooming and trafficking 14 and 15-year-old girls. I believe Megyn Kelly has a 14-year-old. I have a 14-year-old son. Those are children, Megan. Those are children. Children cannot consent. Children cannot consent. And I think that's the whole root of this. For all of these MAGA men and for all of the men who are engaged, connected to what Epstein did, it's all about control, domination, coercion. They don't want something between two consenting adults. That doesn't titillate them. That doesn't get them off the same way as dominating and controlling and coercing somebody who cannot consent, is weak and powerless. That's what they really enjoy, and that's why they excuse it so frequently. It is very much in keeping with all of their worldview and how they want to treat everybody in society. Domination, coercion, control. And so when I see Christian electeds who are not part of the MAGA cult, right, who are refusing to allow MAGA to falsely co-opt Christianity, when I see men like James Tallarico say things like this.
When did pedophilia become a partisan issue? The American people deserve to know the whole truth about Jeffrey Epstein and every single powerful person who enabled him. Every name, every flight log, every cover-up, all of it. The White House and congressional Republicans are hiding the Epstein files. Why? These are the same politicians who call librarians groomers, who call their political opponents pedophiles. And to be clear, if there is a Democrat on that list, I will be the first to call for their prosecution. Because if there's one thing we should all be able to agree on, Democrats and Republicans, conservatives and progressives, it's that no one, including the President of the United States, should be able to cover up crimes against children.
Okay, I agree with everything there, James. But again, I think the problem is going to be that MAGA has no problem victimizing girls. The fact that we see conservative politicians and pundits trying to frame the argument of barely legal, or she looks older than she is, or she's 15, not 8, so it's okay. There is no goalpost they won't move. There is no behavior they won't excuse to defend their cult leader, but it's more than that. It's that the entire ideology is all about domination, control, and coercion. So of course, assaulting girls fits into that nicely for them. It's not going to be something that they actually really have a problem with. Meanwhile, consenting adults engaging in behaviors that harm nobody, that are nobody's business, that's what they want to police, that's what they want to punish folks for. We know that MAGA Republicans are the party of PDF file protectors, and they don't really have a problem doing that labor for them, committing those crimes for them, because they don't really have a problem with trafficking and assaulting girls. Also, real quick at the end here, we've probably had some gay presidents. That's a video for another time, but I actually think framing any behavior that Donald Trump has allegedly engaged in a way that contributes to gay erasure, in a way that contributes to, painting the LGBTQ plus community in a negative light. Let's be careful that we're not doing that. But again, I think understanding how they view the behaviors of consenting adults versus the victimization of children can really help us understand far better the mindset, the worldview, the ideology of MAGA.